I've taught myself how to apply a Brummel splice and did it the hard way with some trial and error. Now, after referring to 2 books, 15 YouTube videos, and with some practice, I've learned these key things for you to apply this splice correctly and easily. Hi, I'm Sailor Eric, and this channel is for sailors, either aspiring or accomplished. Dyneema rope is incredibly strong and useful on a sailboat. It's also easy to splice. A well-done splice will maintain up to 90% of the line's breaking strength, which can be 10% better than a bowline knot. This CBKnot 8-strand 7/64 inch line is rated 1,400 pounds of breaking strength. That's comparable to the equivalent sized wire rigging. Let's prepare. We will want to identify the amount of tail you will need to bury for your splice. 50 to 72 times the diameter of the line is needed to maintain strength. Less than 50 and that will compromise the splice. Greater than 72 times the diameter is excessive and unneeded. I did the math and found that my tail should be between 5.5 and 7/7/8 inches for optimal strength. The longer the tail, the stronger the splice. I decided to go with 60 times the diameter of 7/64 inch line to come up with 6.5 inches of a tail. Among the tools that I have today are a sharp knife, medical tape, splicing fids, a Sharpie pen, measuring tape, a splicing wand, and a cutting block with some tape with the measurements I pre-marked onto the block. Next, if not already done, prep the line you plan to use, cutting the necessary lengths. Use 45-degree cuts with a sharp knife. If needed, use some form of tape to keep the ends from fraying. Don't use a butane lighter to coagulate the synthetic lined end, which would create a bulbous end, making it more difficult to work with. We're going to mark the line. Measure the determined length of your tail from the working end and make mark A. Then a second mark, determining the size of your loop. In my case, I want the loop to fit around an 18mm non-friction ring. This will be mark B. Stay to the end of the video to find out why I'm doing a Brummel splice for this non-friction ring. Next, twist and compress the line to expand it at mark B. This single braid line has the properties of a finger trap when expanded. Pass the fid through the center of that line, being careful not to catch any strands or fibers. You want to do this so the hole is equidistant through the strands. You want an equal number of strands on either side of that fid. Then insert the working end into the fid and pull the fid and working end through that hole you just made. After you've brought the line through, pull it all the way through so that the line inverts itself into the hole that you just made, like so. Pull it nice and taut. Now, do exactly the same thing we did with mark B at mark A, in the same direction, in the same way. This next step will require some fiddling and practice to do well. Take your time with this step and don't lose patience. Widen the hole of mark A, either using your fingers or a fid. Then thread the standing part of the line through the hole until mark B passes through mark A. This will undo or remove the inversion we created by pulling the line through itself. I ended up using a Marlin spike to widen the hole enough to pull the end through. Now, remove the twist in mark B like you did in mark A by widening the hole and threading the working part of the line through the hole until it terminates at mark A. Verify things look right by observing the figure 8. We do not want to see extra twists where the line comes through itself at this point. We will now check to make sure the diameter of the locked splice fits our 18mm non-friction ring. You can loosen and re-inspect the splice if need be. You would check to ensure a twist or inversion does not still exist. Now we bury the tail. Ensure we have the length of tail marked on the standing end. Then mark the tail 50% of the length to determine where to start our taper. Tapering the tail is important because the breaking strength of the line can be compromised at a point of a sudden diameter change. The taper should start 50 to 80% down the length of the working end and should bring the diameter down to between 50 and 20% of the original tail. For me, I mark the taper to start at 50% down the tail or 3.5 inches. And we'll bring the taper down to 25% or down to 2 strands. I am using this Ronstan F15 splicing wand for 2 to 4mm lines, which is a great tool for this purpose. It is awesome. The wand is being inserted below our tail length mark in the standing end, so the entire length of the tail will be buried when we are done. Pull the entire length through the compressed line until you find the 50% mark we made earlier in the working end. I will have marked the last 50% of the tail into 3 equal thirds so as to remove 2 strands per mark. Now, identify a pair of strands, one at a time, and cut them, pulling them out from the working end. Work down a further third of the tail, repeat that process, cutting 2 strands and pulling them out one at a time. Work down to the remaining third of the tail and repeat that process one more time so that we're down to 2 strands. Now, complete the splice by milking the compressed outer line over the buried end. Do this methodically from the top of the splice. And that's it. That's the Brummel Splice. I promised to share why I'm creating the Brummel Splice for a non-friction ring. It's because I was inspired by Tom Cunliffe's video on a sheet lead upgrade. See this video from his channel for inspiration. I plan to implement this on silver heels during the next sailing season. To conclude, using a splice preserves greater load strength of a line than a bowline knot. It is more permanent for a particular use case and is less likely to foul, chafe, or come undone. Please share in the comments if this video helped you implement a Brummel Splice, and let me know if there is anything else you learned or wish I covered. Remember, subscribing is free to you. Thanks for watching.